Yum, yum!
Greg here from Pixel Fondue. I'm going to do a little tutorial on how to make this sort of stretchy, blobby creature here, design, whatever. And it's a good tutorial for some just basic rigging information if you're interested in that in Modo. And I'll show how you can get it to be sort of nice and smooth in rendering, but also where there's a bit of a limitation in Modo where it would be helpful to have mesh op for quad retopology. And so let's just get going here, and I'll start with a new scene. So I'll just do Control New for a new scene, and let me hide or sort of collapse the old scene there. I'm just going to make the background that sort of nice sky blue color with one of my presets. I like to work like this. And yeah, so we'll just start off by creating a procedural sphere in the empty mesh item here. We'll just call this guy sphere. And over here, I'm just going to press tab while hovering over the operator list and type in sphere. Hit enter to bring in the scene there. And you can use mini props just to bring up the little mini properties and go to tessellation. We'll say 8. And so it's nice, nicely tessellated sphere there, right? So we've got one of those in the scene. I'm going to press L for a new locator. I'm going to just drag the camera and light up to the top. And select your locator and Control D duplicate it. And then select your sphere and Control D duplicate it. And then we'll just parent the first sphere to the first locator and the second sphere to the second locator. Okay, so now we got 2 spheres and 2 locators. And I'm just going to pull out a little bit. I'm going to move one over on the left on the X and the locator 2 over to the right. And just move them apart. Now what we need to do is get a line in between them and then get some geometry on that line that sort of, is squishy in the middle. So let's create the line first. And so I'm going to press N for a new mesh, empty mesh here. We'll call this line. And we're going to create this line. Let me just close my mesh ops here for the moment. We're going to create this line using some arrays and just to create polygon mesh ops. Actually, let me pop open my mesh op again. And hit tab and then just do create polygon. So create polygons right there. And then I'm going to open up my schematic in the left over here. You need the schematic open for this one. Just squish this in a little bit. And I'm going to drag this add selected for my line. And you can see my double click that little diamond. You can see there's my create polygons mesh operation there. And it has an input for positions. So what we need to do is get our 2 locators. So I'm going to select my 2 locators and just add them to the scene here. And I need the positions of the 2 locators to create the 2 positions for the 2 points, right? And so I'm going to hit, you can just hit tab in the, on 16.1, I think I'm here in the schematic, and we'll just type in locators to array is what we want, that one there. As usual, if you like the icons, those are Warren's icons. I wish they were standard. You can pick them up on Gumroad. There's a whole review on Pixel Fondue for Warren's icons. Everybody should have Warren's icons. Okay, so grab the 2 locators, just hold shift and drag both those inputs there. Let me just undo that. There's some weird visual glitch there when you hold shift where it's coming from the wrong area, but it works. So they're both going in there, and what this node is doing is it's grabbing the world position of both those locators and it's putting in them in an array or just a list, right? Locator 1 world position, locator 2 world position. And if I put that into the create polygons for position, it'll use that to create polygons, right? But we don't want to create a face, we want to create a line. So I'm just going to press line, and there it is, right? And in the advanced viewport, you can actually just press O for options. Under active meshes, if you turn your line thickness to 2 or 3, it'll be nice and thick, and you can even change colors and stuff. But you can see the line there. Now we're going to use this to extrude a circle, right? So now I'm going to press N for a new mesh item over the item list. So pressing N for a new mesh item when you're hovering over the item list, or L for a locator, it's just faster than going here to the item list and adding those things. There's just some nice shortcuts for adding locators and mesh items, which you do all the time, right? It's like adding a new layer in Photoshop. So we'll just call this connector like that. And over here in the mesh op list, I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to type in circle. So this will be our profile. So there's our circle right there, right? And then I'm just going to reduce the radius from 0.5 to 0.48. So it's just a little smaller than our spheres. And then I'm going to change it from Bezier to spline. And then I'm going to press tab again, and I'm going to type in extrude, curve extrude. And so it's automatically going to give you an option for a path. And so obviously we want our line to be that path. And now we're extruding between these two. Looks pretty good, right? That's what we want. Now we just want it to be, we want a couple of things here. We want it to scooch, suck down in the middle. So right now, if I move my locators, because they're all rigged up over here, that line is going to stay connected, that extruded, section here. What I want to do is add a little, we want it to get skinny in the middle, like it's being stretched, right? So we need to add a push operation. So I'm going to just press tab again. We'll hovering over the item list, push, and there's our push. This little blue handle here, you can see if I push like that, that's what I want. But what I want to do is I'm just going to push it in a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to add a fall off, right? A radial fall off. So go to the tool pipe, add a fall off, a radial fall off. Now, right away, that sort of sits in, at the origin. What we want to do is constrain it in where it's always in between those two locators. So if I start moving the locators around, for instance, if I start moving this locator, why don't I just actually grab both these locators and under display or under locator, hit shape custom. And then instead of those boxes, let's do circles. And then let's make them just like 0.7 so they stand out a little bit. And then under display, you can also do this with mini props. Hit space to bring up mini props, add draw options, wireframe user, and wireframe color to be like purple or something. And yeah, so now they should be sort of nice, hopefully more visible to you there, those purple circles. I wish the locators had a line width like the curves so they could get thicker. I think that's an important improvement to the advanced viewport. But anyway, what I'm saying is if you grab these locators, we want to get that, this guy, again, I'm just going to change the display on here. So just add draw options, user, we're just going to make this fall off green. Hopefully you can see that better there. We want that fall off to stay in between these locators, just like that curve is, right? And so we can do that pretty easily. So I've got my two locators here. And what I want to do is I'm going to select them both. I'm going to go to channels and I'm going to kind of drag down and I'm going to say world position. I'm just going to drag it in. And go down to the next one down here and say world position, drag it in. You can also right click on these and say add channel world position. That's another way to do it. So I've got the world position channel in the schematic. And then you can see that these little dots here, 3 dots is a vector and 9 dots is a matrix, right? So we actually want to blend these two matrices together. It's like a list of different positions, right? So we want to just press tab to bring up our add node browser. And we want a node called matrix blend right there. And just hit enter to bring that in. Whoops, I brought in 2 of them. I'll delete that one. And so I'm going to bring in my fall off too. So let me just come over here to my item list. I'm going to drag my radial fall off in here. I'll do the same thing where I just right click and under add channel, I'll select world position. I could also drag it from the channel list like I did earlier. And you can guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, world matrix A will be this world position. Matrix B will be this world position. And the radial fall off will get the blend there. You'll see it goes all the way over to one side. That's because the blend is at 0%. We'll put it at 50%. And now no matter where I move my locators, that fall off is going to stay in the middle. So now we just have to constrain the radius to be at the distance between the two, right? So we'll do that as well. So I'm just going to add a node called measure distance. Modo has all kinds of measure nodes in there. So measure distance. And this does the same thing. See those 9 dots there? It's just, again, it's taking these same world position matrices. So I'm just going to take, number 1 there and locator 2 here. And here for my radial fall off, I just want to drag in the radius channels, right? So down here, radius, just select all 3 of them, drag them in, and you can twirl it down. And if I just put these in, it's going to measure the distance. So it's going to make the radius the entire distance between them. We don't want that. We want it to be half the distance, right? Because it's the radius, not the diameter. So for all you people who've failed geometry, or did well in geometry. So we want to just do a divide node. So again, Modo has all these awesome, just basic math nodes. Modo's like procedural abilities are actually really quite good. And just takes, you just got to jump in here and start messing around and doing those stuff. Anyway, so the distance will go here, and you can kind of look at this guy if you want to look at the channels. You can see the distance right there, right? It just shows in the channels. And we just want to select our little divide node and say divide by 2, right? And then we're going to feed that into all of these little radius XYZs. And there our sphere is right, it's right there in between. No matter where we drag these, it's going to be stuck in between them, and the radius is going to be stuck there as well. So if I want to get skinnier in the middle, I could just take my push and I can drag it in a little bit. You can also probably animate or key the push distance, like do a set driven key or whatever you want to do to get the push distance. If you want to animate that or have it sort of go with the actual distance between them, you can use more data. You can use the data from this measure distance node and put it into the push if you want to. Here, what I don't really like is the way this is stretching. You see, if I look at it from the front, it's got this sort of like bell-shaped curve. We don't want that. And that's really easy. You just go to the radial fall off, and you've got this curve here at the bottom, right? And so I'm just going to select the top one. And I'm going to go up like that, and just watch it here in the viewport. I'm going to select the bottom one and go up as well. And so it's just a sort of looks like a quarter circle kind of. And what that does is it just, it changes the easing. So we get this nice like ease like that. So that looks better. Let me just Control 1 to hide the locators and take a look. And it looks pretty good. Let's actually rig up the push attribute here, the push distance, just so when they get close together, we can get it to bulge out a little bit. So right now, when they're stretched out, when these locators are far apart from each other, they're sort of as pushed in. But when they get really close, we can change it to where it sort of bulks up in the middle. So let's just push this back and pop open the schematic. And I'm going to add a node called a channel relationship right there. And we're going to use the measure distance input. So right now, the measure distance, if I look at the channels, we're like 3.6 apart. And so I'm going to plug that into the input. And then the output is going to go into the push's distance, right? So here's the push's distance. I'm just going to drag it in right there. And we're going to plug in the output to the push's distance like this. And let's just get this all in here. So right now, if I look at it, you see we lost our little squishy. If I look at this, this is the channel relationship interface. I hate it. So I'm just going to pop open the little graph here and do it manually. And I'm going to middle mouse click around 3.5. That's about how far apart those guys are, right? And then I'm just going to click and drag, using my middle mouse to drag down and get that squishiness in the middle there, like that. And then back when over here at 0, we're going to go up a little bit so it pushes back out, right? So if I grab this locator right here, and as I get closer, you can see the push is just decreasing, and eventually it's even getting kind of fat here, right? So I can actually go back to my value here on my relationship node and just middle mouse drag this up a little bit, kind of get a little bit of a push there, right? So now it's pushing up once it crosses this threshold here. In fact, we can probably even stretch this out a little here like that. So now when we have our locators and we're moving them, get them really far apart, gets really skinny like that. And then when you get really close, you get that sort of bulgy look right there when it crosses that threshold, right? Cool. Okay. So here's where we get to some limitations in Modo. We've got this nice thing set up. And if I want to add more nodes to this, like spherical nodes, I can just, add another locator, add another sphere. And I can just do the same setup, measure the distance between them, add another create polygon node for the line, add another connector node, mesh item for the connection between them, duplicate the radial fall off. I can make as many as I want, right? And you can actually go in here and duplicate some of these. Like, when Modo duplicates mesh ops, it tends to duplicate all the inputs as well. So you can either sort of build them from scratch like I just did, make another one from scratch, or you can do some duplicating and then just some rewiring either way. But let's take a look at this. So if I look at this through preview here, it's not really what we want, right? We got these hard lines. It's just not so great. And so let's see what we can do about this. I'm going to press N for a new mesh item, and I'm going to call this merged. And then we'll add a mesh operator. I'm going to add a merge mesh, if you could guess, so merge mesh. And one of the things you want to make sure you do in your connector, this guy right here, let me just isolate it. You'll see I've got my end caps on. If I go to curve extrude, you have these two end caps. You want them on. The reason you want them on is we're going to do a union, and Boolean operations like closed services. So keep those end caps on. Make sure it defaults to it, but just make sure they're on. And then we're going to go to our merge mesh, and for sources, I'll hit add sources, and I'm just going to grab my connector and the two spheres holding control to multi-select, and then I'm just going to drag them on there. Okay, so now they're all in there. If I hide the original guys here, hide the connector and the two locators, this is my merged guy, right? So it's all merged in here now. But it's still, they're not Booleaned together. So they're still sort of three separate meshes, the two spheres and this middle part. And so we've got these seams, right? So let's do a union operation. So just add operator, do a Boolean, and the Boolean will allow you to do an operation called union all, which will just, you do a union for all the closed surfaces in that mesh. So it's hit OK. And we just unioned all this together. So now if I double click, it's going to select everything. But if you look at the wireframe, you can see like we're still getting, it's kind of some like ugly, chunky connections there, right? And quite frankly, there's just no way around that. And so normally what you would do, and I see a lot of Houdini users, they would often just go into their volume tools where they would create a, turn this sort of messy looking thing into a volume, and then mesh the volume into something much smoother. And you can sort of do that in Modo, where I can, it'll keep it procedural, but the Modo's volume node just isn't very updated, I will say. So VDB, voxel, you can do that. And what you can do here is just say source item will be the merged item, right? So you can kind of see these little lines around here, like it's starting, starting to voxelize it. If I hide my merged item, and there's our line, we can hide that too. On my VDB, if I select generate voxel mesh, you can see this like chunky blobby thing in there. And you can bump up the voxel resolution, like a lot, like turn to like 50 or something. And it turns into a lot, but it's still sort of like ugly, chunky. It's just not doing what we want out of it, right? There's some smoothing operations here. You can go to filter mode and like Gaussian and try to like smooth it out. But this stuff doesn't work super great either. It's just really not the solution we're looking for. Now, an updated voxel node would be super welcome from anybody who wants to take that on. But what is another option? Well, another option is to do a retopology into a quad mesh that we can sub-D, and that's going to smooth everything out. Unfortunately, we don't have a mesh operation that can do that. What you'd ideally want to do here is add a mesh operation here, and then just add your quad retopo to the mesh, and you can just have it fully procedural. What we need to do is take this merged mesh here, and you can duplicate it over here by right-clicking and saying freeze and duplicate, or you can just grab all the polygons, just select them all, and copy and paste them. Because Modo's, you can copy and paste anything in Modo, basically. So we've got our merged guy here, and it's just, again, it's all one thing, but it's kind of ugly, right? But if you come up here, I'm going to use, Modo's got a built-in quad retopology here, like automatic retopology. I'm going to use the Exoside one, which is, I think it's the guy who did it for ZBrush, but it's really good. There's a whole tutorial or a review of it on Pixel Fondue. I suggest you buy it, and you can just hit, change the target count and just remesh it. And so I just remeshed it, and what it is, it hid the old one and it remeshed the new one. You can see how nice and clean it is now. You can just shift tab, turn that into a sub-D, and then you can go in if you want to fix some of these things. I think I got my radio fall off just a little too tweaked here, so I got a little bit of a line here, but you can fix that with your fall off, just like adjusting this down a little bit would have done it. Problem is, this is no longer procedural, right? So if I were to want to fix that, we just undo it. I've got to like go back and like, okay, delete, these guys, go back to my merge mesh and say, okay, that's not quite right. Let me just turn off the Boolean here. Then I would have to fix it this way, right? Like come in here and, fix my fall off a little bit here, or change my my connector, change my circle a little, maybe 0.49 or something, make it a little bit bigger so it crawls up there a little bit, something along those lines to do it. And then you have to start all over with the retopology. So this one's too high. So we turn back on the Boolean to get it all into one solid mesh, and I can just press 3 for a polygon, middle click, lasso select, Control C, copy, press N for new. Let's hide our merged guys and paste in those polygons. And then we'll just redo our quad retopo like this, remesh it. It turned up the quads to, 4,000 this time. And there we get like a smoother, just get this going again here. Smoother looking transition there. So there we go. So that's how you do it. But you see, it's a pretty nice workflow up to the point where we need to do a retopo or make use of a volume node. And these aspects aren't in Modo's mesh operations list yet. So I'm just sort of like, one of the reasons I did this video is to kind of show this like cool little thing. But to say, hey, if you're out there and you're making kits for Modo, a quad retopology mesh operation would be great, or some volume tools that we can also add to the mesh op stack. Actually, Exoside may have been, I think they were working on a mesh operation version of that retopology command I just did. So yeah, we can, go there, buy their product, what they have now, and maybe we can get some motivation to build finish the mesh operation version for Modo. By the way, if you want to do some shading here, and you want sort of a different material or get a mask to create like a more transparent section there in the middle where it's stretching, we can do that with weight maps, right? So I can actually go in here and I can do it on the retopoed mesh, but again, I'll just do it on the back here in our merged mesh. I can just add a set weight mesh op right here, set weight. We'll just call this map name W, hit enter, and I'm just gonna press select map to have it show up in the viewport. Make sure under options for active meshes, it says show weight maps, so you can see in the viewport there. And that's just going to set a 100% weight on everything, but let's limit it to the middle area with the fall off. So we just go to the tool pipe here, and we're just going to add that radial fall off that's already in the scene, right? So under existing, here's our radial fall off, click that, and you can see, there we go. So then you can use this later on in the shader tree if you want to. You can come over to the shader tree, and I can add let's just add like a constant for the color. And you can use this in Octane as well. So we use black, and let's do like a stretchy like white in the middle. So just we can just duplicate the black one. Well, why don't I just make this red actually? So we'll make it sort of red, and the black one we will make sort of orangey yellow, like so. And so you can see there's the red, here's the orangey yellow, and I just add a vertex map texture. Oh, it's processing. Vertex map texture, and that's W, right? And there it is right there. And you can adjust like these, like the bias here, or the the gain if you want to. And then yeah, you can just drag it on there as a mask like that, and you can use it for other things as well. But that's how you can kind of get the stretchy texture. And this is live, right? So I can actually go back to my locator and move this over, and you can see it. That vertex map texture is just gonna stay in the middle there. Not so bad. Actually, it doesn't look super bad without the retopo, but you can kind of see the artifacts there. So we definitely need a retopo, auto retopo mesh operation just to pop on top of all this. But yeah, there we go.
Yum, yum.